I didn't really see my patient experience as being professional experience. It kind of felt like two different things to me. It's something that I guess I take for granted a little bit, that I have this experience and this understanding.
Hello there, I'm Sarah McCluskey and this is Research Adjacent. Each episode I talk to amazing research adjacent professionals about what they do and why it makes a difference. Keep listening to find out why we think the research adjacent space is where the real magic happens. I'm delighted to welcome a different kind of guest to this episode of the Research Adjacent podcast. Sam Alexandra Rose not only works in a charity rather than university, she is also just 6 months into her first research adjacent job. Sam is a patient and public involvement manager for Bowel Research UK, where she helps researchers to collaborate with patients. But what's really interesting about Sam's story is that she found herself on this path after being a bowel cancer patient herself at the age of just 22. Now she is so passionate about improving lives and challenging stigma that she writes and talks about her experiences. She was even featured in last year's award-winning All Guts campaign, which invites people to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. It'll be running again this August, so look out for more bowel health stories on social media. But for now, listen on to hear Sam's story. Welcome along, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you here. So first of all, I wonder if you could tell us a bit about what it is that you do.
Yeah, so I am the PPI manager for a charity called Bowel Research UK. So the charity funds research into all sorts of bowel conditions, so bowel cancer, but also IBD, so Crohn's and colitis, diverticulitis, various conditions like incontinence, constipation, all of the stuff that people are generally quite uncomfortable talking about is what we're doing today.
Certainly adults are very uncomfortable talking about it. As somebody with a small child, she's delighted to talk about some of that stuff. But yes. Just for anybody who's not familiar with the acronym, can you tell us about what PPI manager is? What's PPI stand for?
So PPI is patient and public involvement. So my job as PPI manager is to make sure that patients are really integrated into the research that the people that we fund and also people that we don't fund but we support are doing. So it's things like researchers will come to me and they'll be setting up a focus group, or they'll want me to put out a survey for them. And there's sort of a distinction between PPI and kind of being a participant in research. So if you're participating in research, then maybe you're being interviewed about, say, your medical experiences, for example, and what you're talking about is kind of the qualitative, like the actual research, like you are being researched on. Whereas PPI is more along the lines of getting patients involved in research by making them equal partners in the research, and that can look like a lot of different things, but it's really kind of getting the opinions of like some of the most important people in the research, really, because if you think about it, people with bowel cancer, for example, are the people who are going to be benefiting most from this research. So you want to get people involved. You want to make sure that what you're, say, the medical device that you're creating, or the whatever sort of intervention it is that you're doing, you want to make sure that that's actually going to benefit people. So yeah, every sort of stage of the research process really should be keeping these like patients involved and making sure that everything is going to be relevant to them.
And how involved do patients get in the actual process of planning and doing the research rather than being the subject of the research?
Well, so again, it can look at like lots of different things. So it might simply be that people have been asked to take part in a focus group, and they're shown, say, a device or something, and then they're asked sort of what their opinions are on it. Or it could even be sort of right from the beginning, like before research has even taken place. Patients might get involved. The questions are really, what is important to you? What's going to affect your life? And it's not just thinking about how to cure diseases, but also to improve people's quality of life as well, because that's really important. So yeah, there's lots of different ways and different stages that people can get involved, and I'm generally finding that people are keen to do that. People want to make a difference to research and be active within that.
That's great to hear, and it's really important work, that getting people involved. And certainly that is part of your story of how you came to be in this role, isn't it? Would you like to tell us a bit about your journey?
Yes. So I spent about 10 years in digital marketing. And I started this job about 6 months ago. Had a complete career change, really. And it's quite extraordinary just kind of thinking about all of the different events that have led me to be sitting here talking to you. So I am a patient myself. So when I was 22 years old in 2010, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I had temporary stoma, and after that, we had some genetic testing done, me and my family, because the doctors wanted to know, like, why did this happen to me so young?
Mm-hmm.
So we had the genetic testing, and we found out that my parents and I have something called Lynch syndrome, which is a genetic condition that makes people more likely to get different types of cancer. And you inherit it from your parents. I'll try not to get sort of too bogged down with the genetics and how it works, but essentially if one of your parents has Lynch syndrome, then you might inherit it off them. What happened with me is that both of my parents have Lynch syndrome, and I inherited it from both of them, which essentially means that one of my genes so we have these genes that kind of prevent us from getting cancer and can sort of stop the cells from, I don't know the complete ins and outs, but one of my genes that is supposed to protect me it just hasn't shown up for work. It just doesn't do that. And it's actually really rare. So it's 1 in a million people I've read have this. I always take the view that I'm 1 in a million. I like to inject kind of the dark humor. I think you've got to laugh about it sometimes.
I think
so I do have quite a light view on all of this. But yes, so I was sort of diagnosed with that, which means I have to have like regular checkups, various scans and things every year. And then in 2018, when I was 30, I was diagnosed with womb cancer and duodenal cancer within a day of each other, actually.
Goodness.
Yeah, so I had some surgeries for those as well. And so far, touch wood, since then, I've been okay. But yeah, it's very, very stressful thing to have to like keep going through all of the screening and to have that fear of recurrence. So I think it does help me in my job that I do really empathize with patients on a lot of different issues, because I've experienced them myself. So the way that I actually got into this job is that I used to work for a digital marketing agency, and Bowel Research UK was one of our clients. And so I found out about them that way. And then I started doing some guest blogging for them sort of on the side as a patient, just my sort of patient story and experiences. And then one day our CEO rang me up and said, hey, there's this job as PPI manager. I'd really like a patient to be in the role. I think you'd be perfect. What about it? And yeah, 6 months later, here I am. So kind of fallen into the position, and it's strange to wonder sometimes what else I might be doing and where life might have taken me if I hadn't have had those cancer experiences and have this condition. So yes, it's bizarre if you think about it too deeply, but I'm enjoying it.
I think it's great to hear that you're enjoying it, and I think it is. Our experiences just make us who we are and where we end up, aren't they? I think nobody ever quite has the career path that they intended, and sometimes, whether it's making the best of a situation or whether it's just that it leads you down a new path, I think it's fascinating where life takes us. But I'd never heard of Lynch syndrome before. So yeah, like you say, quite a rare one. And I'm sure that experience of having been a patient, having understanding what people are going through must be really helpful when you're helping to coordinate these patient contributions into the research.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that's just so ingrained in me that I sort of came into the job. Obviously, I didn't have any sort of PPI experience, and I didn't really see my patient experience as being a professional experience. It kind of felt like two different things to me. It's something that I guess I take for granted a little bit, that, you know, I have this this experience and this understanding, and I guess I sometimes forget that other people don't have that, and that is actually an asset for me, being in this role. But yeah, I like to think that it helps me to communicate with other patients better. But yeah, it's something that probably happens quite naturally, so I don't really think too much about it, or really maybe realize exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Well, if you're doing it quite intuitively, that's potentially a really great thing. But as you say, coming into this without having that PPI experience, what's that been like these last 6 months, coming into a whole different world with its own acronyms and its own, you know,
oh my gosh, so many acronyms. I can't. Oh my gosh, it's too much. When you asked me what PPI stood for earlier, and I was thinking, don't say the wrong acronym. Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, sort of getting into a new role, especially after doing digital marketing for so long. I've definitely injected digital marketing into this role, however. So I do feel like there's a kind of duality to my role. So you have the traditional doing PPI, coordinating and facilitating focus groups and that kind of thing, talking to researchers, trying to build the patient network as well. And then you also have all of these other things I wanted to do as well. So things like having our own podcast, maybe doing further down the line, doing some webinars, perhaps to educate people on PPI and to encourage more patients to sort of get involved in research. What else? I had the idea of doing a poetry anthology because I used to run some poetry magazines for a little while, and I thought it'd be quite cool if we had our own sort of bowel related one of those. So yeah, and kind of online events and virtual conferences and things like that, things that I've been involved in as a patient and as kind of an audience member before, but yeah, also just to try and get my digital experience to help with that. And I think that we can reach a lot of people online, and I've found the cancer community online as well to be a great support and absolutely huge, and yeah, definitely wanted to tap into it. So I think actually one of the sort of challenges of the job and the way that I have kind of shaped the role, because I was kind of told, you know, this is yours to shape as you want to. One of the challenges is like balancing those traditional PPI activities with all of these new kind of digital initiatives that I also wanted to do, and just finding time in the day to do all of those things.
Too many ideas.
Yes.
Oh, it sounds fantastic, the way that you're bringing in your past experience and making it a real asset there. And certainly I know from some work I've done in the past that this boom in online communication has actually been fantastic for people who are living with health conditions. Hasn't that ability to, you know, if you have got a rare illness 20 years ago, you maybe would never have met somebody else with that illness, but now you can have an online community and connect to people all over the world. So I think that your understanding of that online stuff, yeah, as you say, is potentially a real asset.
Yeah, I think especially because of COVID as well, and you know, people even, I guess, post pandemic, if you like, you know, still not feeling comfortable about meeting up in person, being immunocompromised and that sort of thing. I think that COVID's definitely had a big impact as well. But yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer when I was 22, and what was that, 2010? I got my Twitter account on in 2009, and I didn't really use it back then. I don't really think people that I knew really used it for quite a while. And since then, sort of the cancer community on Twitter has just been, it's absolutely feels like it's exploded a little bit. And just thinking back to 2010 when I was first diagnosed, like that resource wasn't really there, or if it was, I certainly didn't know how to look for it. So yeah, it's maybe it would have felt like a different time back when I was first diagnosed if there'd been that kind of support there.
Yeah, well, the opportunity now to offer that to other people as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I like to ask people to give us some examples of things they've done that they're really proud of. With you only being 6 months into this job, I appreciate you might not have examples, although if you do, that's great. But feel free to think right back through your whole life and for maybe examples of projects or things that you're proud of. And it may be, in your case, things in your personal situation rather than work related.
Well, something that springs to mind is related to Bowel Research UK, but we sort of started it before I kind of became employed here. Is that every year we've started doing our All Guts campaign during August, and as at the digital marketing agency last year, we just sort of started working with the charity when we were doing All Guts for the first time, and it's a video campaign, so they were doing filming, and we've done sort of the same again this year for it, a sort of a different theme. But yes, they were doing filming of patients talking about their personal stories, and just trying to break the stigma really of talking about poo and bottoms and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, can't exactly remember how I managed to get roped into it. I was very brave and agreed to go down to London and be filmed for the All Guts campaign, and yeah, talked all about my experiences. So yeah, that video went out. It went up on our website, and there was various videos on social media. It was quite a big campaign. We was doing like a real push for it, and then this year it's actually won a couple of awards.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, so that's just really nice to be to be part of something that's seen that success, both through awards and kind of the social media engagement we got at the time was really good. And yeah, the first time that I'd been kind of videoed doing anything kind of on that scale, so of a personal award for bravery there.
Yeah. I think it says definitely earned there. We'll have to see if we can get a link for that and put it in the show notes so people can go and have a look. Yeah,
absolutely.
Fantastic. So if you had a magic wand and money was no object, what do you think you would change about the world of patient involvement with research?
I think on a charity level, if I had a magic wand, I would improve our patient database, because we have a very big database of people. So we have our network, which is called PART, which stands for People and Research Together. And there's about 1,000 people in that network, a smaller number that's actually kind of active and engaged, but lots of kind of data to deal with, but still not quite the level of data that I would like to be able to send people opportunities that are really specific to them. Because what I don't want to be doing is sending lots of bowel cancer opportunities to somebody with IBD, and they think, why are you sending this? This isn't, relevant to me. So if I had a magic wand, I would love to instantly just fill the database with all of the information that we haven't collected yet, just to make it easier to see what conditions people have, and where are they living, what are their demographics and all that sort of stuff. And it's something that we're going to do, but as you can imagine, is such a big job, especially when you're wanting to collect data from people retroactively who may end up being like, I've already given you my data.
Yes. Yes, they just ignore it because they think they've already done it. Yeah, I think some kind of massive, let's think bigger here. I think some kind of massive database of all the people who are interested in being involved in research would be great, and to help with that matching up process, because I know that that's something, having come more from the research side of things as well, that researchers themselves find challenging to find. It's not that they don't want to work with people, it's just finding the right people is sometimes a challenge. So I think all across all conditions, that would be a fantastic resource to have as well. Yeah,
especially because some studies are quite niche, aren't they? They want very very specific subset of people.
Yeah, that's it. And the more that we can do to make that process easier, I think the better. Such an important part of doing research. I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, from what I know of my demographics of my audience, I've got a lot of people who are on the academic side, the university-based side of doing research. So what advice would you give them about working with patients and the public in this really genuinely engaged sort of way?
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I think that one of the kind of roadblocks, if you like, to engaging with patients is communication styles. And I know it's so difficult to remember that other people don't know what you know. So I mean, as you can imagine, sometimes we get information from academic researchers that's very scientific, and it may be that it's already kind of been put into a lay summary, but like even that may need to kind of be pared back a little bit further in order to speak the language of the patients, which is quite difficult. Actually, the other day, I've been really resistant to AI, especially because I used to be a copywriter, and I am a writer. Like, I don't want a robot doing my job. However, I used one of the AI things that you get online now for the first time the other day, and I just put in a sort of a scientific paragraph, and I said to it, translate this into like lay speak for me, and did, and it worked really well, and I was really loath to admit how useful it was. But it took the paragraph that I put in, and it translated it into sort of something easier to understand. But not only that, but it also took apart the original paragraph sentence by sentence and explained to me, this is what this means. This is what this is referring to. And it was really
I didn't
helpful.
even know it could do that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'd been resistant to. Yeah, I don't know, like maybe AI could actually very tentatively be useful in the right hands. No, I've totally gone off on a bit of a tangent there.
I think yes, we're all being very tentative with AI at the moment, I think, aren't we? But yeah, interesting though. I didn't know it would do that kind of line by line breakdown thing. Oh, great. Well, I think now I would just like to give you the opportunity to tell us if there's anybody else that you know who's doing great work in this PPI field or in charities, research adjacent kind of roles.
Well, so an organisation that springs to mind for me is called CRIG. It's another acronym. I have written it down. It stands for Charities Research Involvement Group, and it's organised by the Shared Learning Group on Involvement. I just wanted to kind of give that organisation a bit of a shout out, because something that has been really useful so far, and I think it's just going to continue to be a really useful source of information for me, and actually really useful source of support as well. So members meet like 4 times a year, chat about like various issues. We're all PPI people. So yeah, it's just like PPI bods all gathered in the same room talking about the issues that are really important to us, and everybody kind of is on the same page. And like we know where each other's coming from. There's like training put on and workshops and things. So yeah, just shout out to that. I think it's going to be a really valuable resource and way to get to know lots of other people doing great work in charities as well.
Excellent. That's a new one on me. So yeah, again, I'll see if we can get a link and put that in the show notes too. Fantastic. Well, it just remains to say, Sam, if people want to track you down, where's the best place to find you?
Me or the charity?
Both we can do. Yeah.
Okay. So the charity is at bowelresearchuk.org. You can find me, oh gosh, all over the place. Best place to find me is probably Twitter. I am at writer Sam R, and same handle for Instagram and I think Facebook as well. I'm all over the place. I'm always on my soapbox somewhere.
Excellent. I'll find links to those and put them in the show notes as well, so people could be able to track you down one way or another. Well, thank you so much for coming along. It's been really interesting hearing about your work.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely.
Thanks for listening to Research Adjacent. If you're listening in a podcast app, please check you're subscribed and then use the links under the episode to find full show notes and to follow the podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter or Instagram. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the Research Adjacent Roundup newsletter. You can also find all the links and other episodes at www.researchadjacent.com. Research Adjacent is presented and produced by Sarah McCluskey, and you, yes you, get a big gold star for listening right to the end. See you next time.